Call to order the City of Maplewood Parks and Recreation Commission meeting, 6 p.m., November 15th. We'll do roll call, and it looks like we have Craig and Kimmy missing tonight.
And Monica.
And Monica too. All right. Oh. Does anyone want to make a motion to approve the agenda?
I move that we approve the agenda for this evening.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Anyone want to make a motion to approve the minutes from October 18th?
I will make a motion to approve the minutes, October 18, 2023.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approved. New business tonight, we have the picnic shelters and Maplewood Park system.
Hi, thank you, Chair, members of the Commission. At our last meeting, we had a CIP update on the 2024 through 2027 CIP. And out of that conversation, we had a Commission member ask if we could bring some information about what shelters might be looked at to be replaced as part of one of our line items. And I have, if I can have the computer, please. This is one of the slides that our finance director, Joe, shared with the group, and it was the itemized parks items for the next 5 years, and one of those being picnic shelters in Maplewood area neighborhoods, and we have $250,000 planned for some of those improvements for 2024. And then again in 2026, we have another $250,000, so a total of $500,000 in the next few years to improve and replace or build picnic shelters where there aren't any. And while we're not ready to have the formal conversation, again, since Commissioner Harris asked for us to have a conversation, I thought it's a great time before we head into the new year to kind of overview what we're looking at. So I don't know if you can see this on your screens. It might be a little small, but this is also one of the slides that Joe had shared. And I'll just read the description. This is for the picnic shelters, and these descriptions, they don't have to be absolutely verbatim like you're tied to it, but they give you an idea and a narrative of what we're looking at doing. And some parks are named, but it doesn't mean you have to go necessarily with only those parks. So I just wanted to explain that a little bit like this. And this narrative could change in 2025. For going forward before 2026, but we have in the description, planning and construction of picnic shelters at Western Hills, Pleasant View, and Vista Hills parks. One of the outcomes of the park system's master plan process was that residents voiced a need for gathering places for families and celebrations. There is a noted absence of these facilities in certain areas of Maplewood, including the Western Hills, Playcrest, Highland, and Vista Hills neighborhood. There is a shelter at Vista Hills, but it's very small. It fits 3 picnic tables, and I'll show you a picture of it in just a minute. Many of the shelters that exist are in need of replacement, and it should say also upgrading if they're not even replaced. But this proposal fills that need by adding picnic shelters complete with accessible amenities, electricity and solar in these underserved areas of the city. So that's kind of been the broad description for a few years now. We had looked at doing this even in 2020, and then COVID, so that item got pushed forward now. So with that description, it would just be spreading that out over this time period. It doesn't all have to happen right in 2024, because again, we have money additionally in 2026. So I wanted to show you. So this is the current shelter that's at Vista Hills. And our park maintenance, I had them looking it over before the meeting just to see the shape. Well, it's rustic and old and there's no electricity. It's actually structurally very sound. So it's not like it's falling down, but it's limited in size and scope, and without electricity, it's not ideal for, a family gathering. And the thing about Vista Hills is they do have a decent sized parking lot. So they could accommodate a larger shelter because there's a lot of factors that go into this, and we'll get into this a little bit more, but I'm just going to kind of show you the pictures first. So that's Vista. This is Pleasant View. It's a little bit older picture, but again, the structure is sound, but it's also a small shelter, does not have electricity or lights. However, Pleasant View, as we list on our website, and Mark, you could speak to it, it says there are 10 parking spaces. Well, it's really a cement area around a cul-de-sac that could accommodate 10 cars maybe, but it's not a parking lot. And that would be, so if with Pleasant View this was replaced with a larger shelter, you'd have to keep in mind, if you have a larger shelter that's rented out, more people will come, what's the parking like, and that's always a question too. It's like, how large of a picnic shelter do you want in certain parks because of what's there? We would not have the money to add a parking lot, and then where would you put it? So, but you could maybe add, I would say it's more like 5 cars comfortably, especially if they're larger, but maybe you could fit 10 if everybody parked. I don't know, Mark, if you want to speak to it.
Yeah, I mean, in order to accommodate a larger party at Pleasant View would be difficult. It's basically the end of a cul-de-sac where you can park, and it's just a widened cul-de-sac. You might be able to get 5 or 6 cars in there. If they all got in there tight head-on, you might be able to get a few bit more. The other thing, and Audra already spoke to this, is that in terms of entertainment at Pleasant View, having a picnic shelter and having a parking lot, there is no other access that's anywhere nearby. And where we're speaking of, where the parking is, there's really no opportunity to put a parking lot there because that's the hill that they dump all the snow down in the wintertime. And then the other 2 accesses are between houses, which are trails only, and it would be a long distance to carry any type of coolers and stuff. So I think, my house backs up to this park, and I have some, preferences for it, but it'd be very difficult to put in anything much bigger and be able to rent it out, put it that way. Right. And as you can see in this picture, most of the picnic tables in Pleasant View are down the hill and out in the open. So there are a number of tables. It just depends on, how you want to utilize the space.
Right. And the thing that's come up, especially with Goodrich and the playground and the lack of the parking lot there, it's, you have to think about the burden on the neighborhood and what the neighborhood wants for parks that were maybe not intended to have large shelters. However, even the small ones, if we could do amenities like electricity or something, and then you also have to weigh that with, well, it's structurally sound, but do you really want to invest in electricity in a shelter that is a little bit older? So just a lot of factors. So it's good to have this conversation now. So those are, and Pleasant View and Vista were both called out in the CIP narrative. But what I wanted to talk to you about tonight is there's the option of, replacing the ones that exist. There's also and adding amenities, but then also putting them in places that there aren't any, but maybe there should be. But this next one is the one that's, I would say, the no-brainer. It would be the first one that we would do because this is Playcrest. And I don't know if you can, I took the pictures today because I wanted to just and it was such a lovely day, so I could go out. They have the parking lot, as you see in the first picture. There's a parking lot. It's right off of McKnight. The park is McKnight and Lydia Street, and it's in an area of Maplewood that really could use additional shelter. So service area-wise, it's great. That space that you see is where the tennis court was that got taken out. So currently, we have filled it with, fill, but not done anything else because we anticipated that we would put a shelter here. And then add maybe some amenities like make it accessible to the parking lot, add some grills, accessible to regular, and then maybe put a feature like something simple like a horseshoe pit or bocce ball or something, because with Playcrest, it's a very long park. That's why I wanted to give you the view in the bottom right. You can see the soccer goals are way off in the distance. It's a very long stretch of park. So the playground, unfortunately, is not near the parking lot and the soccer fields, but this area used to have the tennis court and a hard court for basketball. It's no longer there, so putting a more passive amenity like a picnic shelter would fit here. So that is one, unless there was some serious argument not to, would be the first place we would look and bring to you at the first of the year, just looking for what we'd want it to look like, amenities, and then we'd involve the neighborhood, because anytime you have something like that where you're going to be drawing people to the neighborhood that weren't before, and we would be renting it out, we just want to get input from the neighbors. So that's Playcrest, and that was also called out in the CIP narrative. But this is another option that you might not think about, because at first glance you'd be like, well, why? We already did the tennis courts, and we put the new playground in. Why would we add a shelter to Sherwood Park? But the argument for it would be, as you can see, that playground is just out in the open. We added the shade feature with the bench by the playground, but we're going to be planting trees there. But even planting trees now, it's going to be a while before there are any trees that can offer shade to where the new playground is. The old one is on the top picture. You can see it's in the back corner where the homes are. It's tucked back there. We're currently taking that out right now. And then the question would be, if we put one in, where would we put it? The tennis courts, as you can see, the start of them are off to your left on the top picture. The playground's to the right. There is a parking lot. That's a good size parking lot for a park that a lot of people don't know is there. When I talk about Sherwood Park, a lot of people go, where's Sherwood? But there's quite a sizable parking lot.
How many does it park, do you know?
I want to say 25. And so
We visited this park on our
Yes.
tour, right? Yeah.
So it's a good parking lot for the size, and this park has recently, with changes in the neighborhood, it is heavily used by families. And when we were doing the playground, we saw how many families are there every night, either playing pickup games of whatever, and there's large gatherings, and there is not a shelter there. There's one permanent table that is near the parking lot. It's metal. And no shade at all, and it's just a small, one of those square built into a cement slab, and one grill. So putting a new shelter in this park would really serve that neighborhood, because there isn't a picnic shelter near this area that is in our system, and it would serve the families that are out there all summer. You saw lots of people out there every night. So this was not described in the CIP by name, but it's a park that I think we should consider putting a new shelter in, because I think it'd be a perfect fit. And then we'd have kind of complete this picture at Sherwood. We would have the tennis courts that are refurbished, that one we've talked about here at other meetings, maybe turning into a pickleball court. We have the brand new playground. We've got the open field. There's a huge open field. It's kind of unofficially used for soccer right now, but it could be any. There's a small, ball field that, to be determined whether we keep it or not. It's not heavily used, but so I just wanted to bring that up for discussion, and I'll turn this back to you for more discussion, but I just think we should consider Sherwood.
Hi, Nikki.
And then,
Hey, there she is.
yep,
Good to see you.
hang on one moment, I'm just gonna slide my chair away. Sorry. Oh, no, you're fine, come on up. And then this is kind of a hybrid situation, Maplewood Heights Park. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the shelter that's currently there. And it is used, however, when it was put in, and we're not really sure why it was put where it was, it is way into the park. It's actually by apartments, the Concordia apartments. It's seen better days. It's still structurally, we've checked it out, we keep our eye on it. There was a cracked beam that we repaired just this week, actually. So it's reaching the end of its useful life for sure, but it is way away from any parking, and so we hesitate to rent it out. We kind of offer it as a last dibs if you're desperate for something, and you need, because it is quite large. It's surprising. It's one of the bigger ones, but it's so hard, as Mark alluded to get anything with your picnic stuff, to get back to it. It's so far away. It's not by the playground. It's just tucked away. And currently, the residents at Concordia, they use it kind of as their own space. I don't know if you can see in the photo, but they have their own chairs. They bring tables out. They kind of use it for, it's theirs. And
That's
so-
exactly what I was going to say, because I've been to Concordia Apartments several times, and they really like that.
Right.
They use that a lot.
Right. So the thought would be, we wouldn't tear it down, we'd limp it along, but to make the park and have a shelter that would benefit all the residents, we would look at moving it closer to the playground, closer to where there's parking, and just one location. It's not, again, this is just a big overview conversation to get feedback and thought, but that space there, kind of hard to tell from the picture, but that's where there used to be a small pleasure rink that they would flood, and it never worked quite right, but it's a nice flat spot. It's much closer to where you can park. There's not a designated parking lot at Maplewood Heights, but we do have the dental clinic that's adjacent to the park where we had an agreement when they put it in, if you remember, that, you know, parking for the park. And so it would still be accessible for a shelter. We wouldn't have to necessarily put one as large as this in, because again, it doesn't have its own larger lot, but it would make sense for that park to have a picnic shelter there. So those are just some options in addition to like the Pleasant View, Vista Hills. It also mentioned, I wanted to bring up, they mentioned Western Hills, and it's true that Western Hills and that service area could use a shelter. Right now, we're still trying to deal with some issues that we're having in that park with unhoused encampments, lots of trash dumping, and some other issues. So I would hesitate to make that the first run at putting shelters in. I would recommend waiting until 2026, because we still have a lot of work to do at Western Hills. We're actually out with the flail mower and trying to mow down some of the brush and the shrubs to kind of create less places that are, you know, hiding things to make it a little bit safer. But it's a park that we get a lot of calls for, and so that would be my one caution, is waiting while we work on other issues at Western Hills. It wouldn't be that it wouldn't be considered, but. So those were just ones. I didn't want to bring too many options so our heads are spinning, but those are some of the situations that are happening right now in our park system, and it's exciting to be able to add some new amenities, but I'm going to turn it over to you, and if you want me to go back or on any of the parks and talk about it, I'm happy to, but I'd just like to get some discussion from the commission on your thoughts.
Anyone have
And I
a
will write them
discussion?
down. So I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, first of all, thank you for doing this. This gives us a much better picture of what we're looking at. I mean, I seeing this on the higher level, I can see exactly where you're coming from and all this. And I think all of your call-outs are very good. You know, I agree with what you're saying on Pleasant View. As much as I would love to have a bigger place there for people to gather, it's a difficult. I think we need to concentrate on the playground there more than a shelter, just because of access. The Sherwood Park one is kind of interesting. It would be something I would like to go out and take a look at it and see what's there. But in Maplewood Heights, I mean, being able to have two of them, what's that going to do to maintenance and schedules? Do they feel they can handle that and everything if we were to do that?
Chair, members of the commission, they would prefer that than trying to get the other shelter ready for rentals if needed, because we're so limited with what we can rent out, and then it's a matter sometimes of saying, we have to take your chairs away from the Concordia people. It's like the folding chairs have to go, we got to take the hanging things down, because it really is, because of where it's located, no one else really uses it but the apartment building, so to have one that's
So
closer.
they decorate this up themselves?
Sometimes, yeah, it depends, but yeah, sometimes we have to go and take some stuff down. I mean,
Well,
it's
at least
great
it's
that they're
getting
using it,
used. I think
but
that's
it's almost
great.
like an extension of their
I'll have to
apartment.
remember that for ours.
Right. Yeah, so it would just serve the residents of Maplewood better to have something closer, and so those are just some thoughts. And again, the Sherwood, it maybe seems greedy, but at the same time, it's a park that has been kind of sleeping and underutilized in other years, and now it's being used more, and it's just in the perfect spot, and with the parking lot, and, you know, you just would love to have people to be able to enjoy the new playground, but have a shelter where they could come and have a picnic, and when the groups are all out there playing, and you've got the tennis courts with the potential of having that be a hub for pickleball, if that's how the residents want things to go, so it would kind of complete what we would put in this park, so that's why I
It
just
could turn it
wanted-
into a destination park.
Right.
Easily, so.
Yeah. And just for that area of town, it'd be nice to have those features there. I mean, it's not that far from Wakefield, but those are always booked out so quickly, and, you know, and this is still a place where you have a big wide open space too, that you can play on and do pickup sports. It's kind of the perfect mix, so I just wanted to have that for consideration.
I have a couple comments. On Sherwood Park, I think that's a great place to have one. Do they still do, I know you don't have the day camp anymore, but do they do a camp at the Y still, and do they bring, that was a great
That's
park.
that's a really good point. They do. That's one that the Y uses, or we've worked into
And
the
then
agreement.
they have their lunches and stuff there, so they do need a place to sit.
Yeah, they haven't used it that much, but that's one of the parks, Robin Hood and Sherwood are parks that are in our agreement with the Y that they can use for if they run a soccer clinic or if they want to use it for day camp. So yes, it would also be a really nice amenity for them.
And I think if we did do in Sherwood, I think we should have a community event there to show it off and get
Well,
people out there, so then people would know where it is. Because if we're saying people don't know, let's have some kind of event once it's in there to show them. And on every single one, let's ask the neighbors around there first.
Sure.
I
Yes.
think neighbors'
Yep.
opinion is most.
And exactly, and with Sherwood, it would be one if we want to go that direction. There are a lot of different ways we could put one in. You know, right now, the existing playground is back, and I mean, the homes are right there.
Yeah.
And that would be the easiest place to tuck the shelter over there, but then again, then the shelter would be right there. And another thing to think about are the trail connections, because a large
There are
cost in these
trails.
projects is putting in the trail, like even with the playground at Sherwood, a large part of the cost was creating the trail that led to the parking lot. We'd want it to be accessible, so the further out from the parking lot it is, the more trail you have to put in and maintain. So you want to keep that in mind. So there, again, if we go down that route, we'd have a meeting where we'd look at, excuse me, some of these we want to consider more carefully, and then and have aerial maps for you, and we could really talk about just what we would want to do. This is just to introduce the subject, and Mark, I'm glad that you asked for us to do it, because it gets the conversation going.
And then on Maplewood Heights, I think it would be great if we did put another one in there, but I think it would be great if you could keep the old one too, just because the seniors love that. They have their families come and they go out there and have dinner all the time. If we could afford to keep both, that would be great.
Right.
And then Vista Hills, that one, we said they have a lot of parking and everything. Would you put it right next to the street there? Or would you move
put
it back a little?
We would put it as close as we could to the
McKnight?
parking lot for the same reason
For
at
coming and
Vista,
going,
'cause,
okay. And that one.
again, we don't want to add a ton of trail, because it just adds an
Right.
expense.
And then, since it is going to be so close to the street, I think we do need to involve the neighbors and just get their opinion, because it's so close to the street.
Yeah. Where it is now, and again, like I said, if we look at this further at the next meeting, I can pull up the aerial maps and kind of lay it out. It's kind of tricky, because with Vista, I don't know if you know that you park, but then you go up this hill. There's a big flat area
Yeah.
that's great for soccer or whatever, but you have to go up a hill to get to it. So we might want to look at putting the picnic shelter closer to the parking lot on the lower level, and then people can go up if they want, because to grade that, to get up that hill might be a
Yeah.
feat. And it's not just about the expense, but even like you said, if people are carrying things and they don't have a wagon, you don't want them to have to go down a long trail to get to a shelter. You want them to be able to access it.
With Playcrest, is that close to the houses, or is that?
No, Playcrest is across the street. I mean, Playcrest is, across the street, and we would definitely involve them, but they'll be excited for things to happen, because, we took the tennis court out, and then right now it's just, yeah.
Okay.
I'll go back to the pictures. It's,
Yeah, because that
it
one's
needs
so,
something, and that's one where we thought, since the
They have-
playground is so far away, look at the picture on the bottom right, it's way on the other side of the park, putting some kind of play features or something here, maybe
might be good, yeah.
a solo swing, or, just something like that near the shelter, because it makes sense to put the shelter here because of the parking lot. It wouldn't make sense to add it on the other side of the park, and then we'd just have this, we could turn this back to turf, but we wanted to wait, and it's the perfect setup for a shelter. It's just unfortunately the way the park is. It's kind of like Harvest. It's a very long park.
And then like Vista Hill and Pleasantville, we say they have the smaller ones or whatever. And we have a lot of parking in
Yeah, Vista has a good-sized parking lot.
Vista Hills,
Pleasant
yeah.
View does not. It's just a
Can we
slab that,
just maybe upgrade Pleasant View then, instead of putting in a whole new, just make us, because you don't want anything real big if it's already,
yeah, I mean, and again, then we have to find out, some of these parks will have easy access to electricity, some may not,
Yeah.
but the goal would be to add electricity and lights, just for safety, because a lot of times I hear from residents that people go in and hang out in the shelters at night and they're dark, but there's ways to add light to the
Yeah.
shelters, solar and
And I guess-
whatnot, so it doesn't have to be electricity, so,
just as long as we include our neighbors, I think that's the greatest thing so we make sure everybody's happy.
Agreed.
And then if any of you have a park that I haven't mentioned tonight that you've thought about, and it doesn't have to be tonight, because we'll revisit this again at our next meeting, and even if Councilmember Villavicencio wants to chime in, but these are just, after giving it a lot of thought, just to tackle for 2024, these kind of seem to be the ones that are in play, from a staff perspective, but again, love to hear from.
Any more comments on that? Thank you, Audra.
Okay.
Next, we have, do you say that Gethsemane Park?
Gethsemane.
Gethsemane Park. I don't even know how to say our park.
And this is an update that was a little bit of a surprise, but then that's why I'm going to pull this up here. And I just wanted to make sure I shared it with you because it has gone out in the, oh my gosh, my eyes, I swear. Just trying to view whole page, let's see. Well, anyway, I'll just kind of, it's the Gethsemane Lutheran Church update, and basically, we've been contacted by a broker for the city of, or for the Gethsemane Lutheran Church, and they are they're exploring the option of selling their property. And just a little reminder for those of you who may not know, we've had a longstanding kind of partnership. It was more official at one point with the church because to reach that goal of a park within a half-mile area of homes, within walking distance, this park, the next closest park would be Geranium, but we have operated there, and this is the playground that, if some of you remember, burned down. It had arson, and we replaced it. But long story short, the school no longer is in operation. So this school year, they've closed down the school, and the church is looking to explore selling it. And long time ago, they had looked at a development. So we had this partnership because this development was going to happen at Gethsemane in the city, part of the street improvements, and that development never materialized. It fell through, but we had a lease with the church, and the lease ran through 2012. It was not renewed after it, and we had explored purchasing 4 acres in 2012. That did not happen, but we did buy 2 acres, and that is currently the red circle that you see here. We own that, but as you can see, it does not include the warming house building, the skating rink, or any of the other fields. So currently, we own the 2 acres that are outlined here in red. And so they've come to the city to see if the city's interested in buying it, or if not, they're going to look for developers. So we're having conversations in the city, and this just kind of came to light, and so we're talking, and this FYI went out to the city council, and we're looking at doing a council workshop on this. But there's more research to be done. But as word is getting out, I wanted to make sure the commission knew that this is a possibility that we may not have this parkland as land that the city can still use. We still maintain it. We maintain the fields. That's one of our nicer rinks. I mean, it's actually full size, and it's nice. It has lights that we put in, and we've maintained it. So, I guess stay tuned. There's not a whole lot else to say. We kind of looked at who was using the group, and since we were doing less recreation in-house, we haven't used these fields as much, but we did have a group this summer that 1 to 2 nights a week all summer. This was their practice fields. But it is heavily skated. It's actually, other than Wakefield, it's the most utilized hockey rink we have and pleasure rink. And that's the unique thing. I talked to park maintenance, and some of the pleasure rinks don't get much skating, but that one does. So it's an amenity that's appreciated in that neighborhood. So I guess I don't have a lot of answers yet, but we're starting the conversations, and we'll see. But we do own 2 acres, and the playground is ours, but the rest of it is kind of, they're looking to sell off the 7.4 acres, which is outlined in the blue. So the church is the purple, and this is just a copy of the FYI that went out to City Council, but I just wanted to make sure that you knew. So I don't know if I'll be able to answer a lot of questions, but if you have some, I can try.
Well, just my comment on it is I would fight hard to try and get the city to purchase it if at all possible, because when I hear the word development, I don't like that when I see it right next to a park that's and a space that's currently being used as park property basically by a lot of people, I would hate to see something go up there that would jeopardize what's been working well for years.
Well, and to that point, as soon as you start developing that piece of property, you're going to worsen the impact on what we do own. And my question is this may be a situation, and again, we're not going to have the answer for this tonight, but I presume the city of Maplewood maintains the zoning for that property. And, I mean, it could end up being something similar to what happened down at the ponds at Battle Creek, I would presume. Nikki, would that be correct, or?
The golf course
Well, the golf course,
is owned by Ramsey County.
right, but the zoning is maintained by
yes.
the city, and the city council, to my understanding, has not allowed it to be rezoned. And in this situation, does the city have the ability to maintain the zoning for this property and not allow it to be sold as development property?
Yes, I believe that's true.
Okay, so I think that's something that needs to be considered as well, as,
Right, and like I said, this is a
Yeah.
very recent development since our last meeting, and so, again, I didn't want others to know, and then the commission wasn't aware. And again, there's not a lot of answers right now, but I know there'll be further talks down the road. Again, we're looking at a workshop with council just to discuss, and we're working with community development as well, and so we're just gonna see how it
When those workshops are scheduled, can you please make sure that we're all included in notification on that so that we can
Sure.
be a part of that?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I think it's an exciting opportunity. Excited to see what happens.
Yeah, because it has been a unique relationship that we maintain it and take care of it and are doing all the maintenance on the lights in the building, but it's not city property, so. Okay. Sure. All right. Yes, we have finished the playground ratings, and interesting as always, and not a whole lot of changes, but just always good for conversation. And let's see, let me pull this up here. So I just printed them off. I took them out of our asset software. Cartograph is how our playground, our park maintenance staff, I should say, that are certified playground inspectors, they go and inspect every playground every year and do extensive. I didn't bring all of the statistics. I just kind of broke down their overall rating, and then enter that into our asset software. And this is the list for this year of where we're at. And you will notice that Sunset and Lower Sunset are in here, but you can disregard those. I wanted to leave them in so you can see the process, but we talked about Sunset Ridge is now going to be the new playground at the bottom, and you can see the upper playground equipment is not in the greatest. That would be the 31.82, but we're replacing the bottom, and then we'll maintain the equipment on the hill as long as possible, and then we'll have to look at other options for the upper area. But otherwise, the rest of these are in play. In Gethsemane, as we just talked about, it is still in great because it's just been recently all replaced because of the arson. So, and Sherwood is our brand new playground that we were just discussing. And the good news is we've got a lot more playgrounds in the upper 90s than we had before, because our playgrounds were all kind of aging, and like you said, that Commissioner Brannon was voting to replace picnic playgrounds that he helped put in. That's how old they are. They're 25, 30 years old. So I'm just going to let you take a look at the list, and then I might as well dive into the lower end of the spectrum. And as you can see, Hazelwood and Harvest, they're not great. And again, these have been held up because of the big, large projects, the Harvest Park Master Plan. The playgrounds were all part of that plan, and we have to hopefully get back on track with that, which is being held up with, all the Purple Line discussions and things. So the playgrounds, unfortunately, have not been replaced yet because these are both going to be part of big overall master plans. And what we don't want to do is just plop a playground in when the whole plan isn't done and adopted, but then you hate that they're so old. I'm like, Hazelwood is at the park where we have the 4th of July, and so you hate to see it, but I can assure you that even though the score looks dismal, there's nothing that is unsafe about any of them. If they found anything unsafe or not structurally sound, they fixed it or they've removed it. So even Hazelwood and Harvest being 25s, there's nothing that's currently out there for people to play on that's unsafe, but we have had to board off or take pieces out that, because we can't replace the parts anymore because they're so old, there's no replacements. And actually, the playground at Hazelwood is the Sherwood that we're replacing, that play equipment, it was exactly the same. It was the same stuff. So Sherwood's is coming out, but Hazelwood is still that play structure. So I'm really excited to get at those two, but that's where they're at, and we're already taking care of Sunset, so that's good. But then that gets us up to Edgerton Playground, and that's interesting because that's one, it's kind of perfect timing, because that's one where we want to have conversations with the school district, it's District 623, because the school uses that playground. That's the playground they use for school, even though it's a Maplewood Park, and it's playground equipment that we currently maintain and fix and had put in. So my goal is hopefully to start discussions with the school district on how we maybe can partner on cost and replacement and the whole process where we get involvement with parents, and if they want to help with the design of the playground, and maybe we can work on a way where we can work together with them to replace that playground, because it's definitely reaching the end of its useful life. It's not dangerous, but there have been pieces that have been taken away, and it's time. So that is at the bottom of the list. But again, with this list, I want to remind you that you take into effect the score, but also the service area, when you're picking which parks, so you're not just replacing parks in just one area of Maplewood. And then the next playground is Pleasant View. So, and it's tied with Western Hills. So then we would look at, service areas again. So we haven't made a decision yet on the playground, and I think a lot would factor in if the process was going to be longer with Edgerton. That one might be skipped to go to Pleasant View and Western Hills, because those are, and if there isn't a playground that's been replaced in that area and there's nothing upgraded, then that would add to the score. That's just the process that we have used. But then also the money to replace the playgrounds other than Hazelwood and Harvest, because they have their own CIP items, or part of a park improvements project that has more funding. The money that pays for these is the park reinvestment. I can speak to it, but you can go back to the slide. I can pull it up if you want. But it's the money that's set aside, and that money can either go to replace a playground or a tennis court or some asset in a park. So then we can also, make the decision. We have a lot of playgrounds to still, we'd like to get like Coleman, Sterling Oaks, Western Hills, Pleasant View, and Edgerton done, because they're below, they're Coleman still, but if they're definitely below 50, you want to get those replaced sooner than later. But then it also speaks to, do we want to replace a tennis court at Vista Hills and turn it into a pickleball court? But we did just do Pleasant View, because I know the neighbors at Vista Hills are like, our tennis court's it's terrible.
The other way around.
Oh, yes, sorry, Pleasant View. See, even I confused it, sorry. At Pleasant View. So those are the decisions to make, but that pot of money goes to replace one of those assets. So it'd be, is it a playground? Is it a tennis court? So any questions? It was right in my mind, by the way, Mark, but I came out wrong.
just did a bunch on Joy Park, and isn't that also other cities besides us?
Joy Park? Oh, yeah, Joy. Yeah, Joy, our park is on the north side and of the, but it's a different kind of playground, and it's play features. Not that long ago. It's different play features, though. It's not, and that score may seem lower, but that park is the one where you have the standalone canoe, and then the creature that you can climb over. That's kind of art installation. Yeah, and there's nothing unsafe about it at all. But.
And then the Western Hills, when you were saying that it's got people living there and everything,
Yeah. Oh, and just to be clear, it wasn't because of unhoused, but I'm just saying there's issues that we want to try to facilitate, so I didn't want to give the impression I'm saying it's because we've had unhoused encampments, but there's just issues, actually, the biggest issue is dumping and things like that, and so we're trying to problem solve how we can make the park a little more, to feel safer and take care of some of these issues. So that's why I suggested just waiting for a shelter, to add another amenity there till. Yeah, no, I mean, it's a tough area of where the park is, and just, it's, near that retaining wall on the highway, and there's just some struggles.
Okay.
And so I just thought, if we had to help, like, decide where we'd want to add another amenity to, I feel like we've got some work to do at Western Hills, so that would maybe wait till 2026 for adding a shelter, but the playground needs work, and that is.
I think it would be awesome to get the parents involved. I know many years ago now, I helped put up weavers, and it was fun, and it was a lot of, and now they're putting up, it sounds like getting a new one for Weaver too, and trying to get the parents involved. And I think the parents like to do that, they want to
Yeah.
be involved.
It'd be a good opportunity, I think, for some fundraising, like working with the school and seeing what we can do to, I'm sure they would love to have a new playground, but.
And we could help too.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Weaver just had their parks meeting.
Yeah, was it last night, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you have the ratings from the previous year that they can be compared one to another and see what time of degradation was taking place in different parks?
I don't have it at this meeting
Okay.
currently, but, I mean, the list hasn't changed a whole lot, but,
Okay.
as far as the playgrounds that we need to replace, but it's nice to see some moving off, like I said, Sunset, both of those are moving off the list, in 2024, but,
Thank you.
yeah.
Any more comments? Thank you, Audra. Now we have unfinished business.
Sure. All right. There's no unfinished business. I think we're,
I just have a question. I don't know if it goes in here or under commission, but where did we stand on any of the student commissioners? I've got that application out to two different
yeah,
groups.
it's coming up in my
Is it?
my
Okay,
updates.
thank you.
Yeah.
All right, then visitor presentation? No? All right, commission presentations. And that was exactly what I wanted to know too, so.
All right, I was ready for you. Yeah, at the last meeting, we weren't going to have another unfinished business item for it because with your motions, we resolved it. However, Mark did get a sneak peek at this because he had asked for it to look at, but I will let you know what we are, where are we at right now with this form. And we just figured, working with communications, they're already pulling together how to get the word out and coming up with some things, but we just figured since we're so close to the meeting now, we'd give you one more chance to just kind of take a look at what the form looks like, to see if there's anything we missed. It can't hurt to review it one more time. But this form, the reason it looks weird on the screen is because it's going to be an online fillable form, so they'll be able to just type right into the boxes. And then communications is going to put this in an online form that'd be submitted through our website, and they're waiting for, I said, why don't you wait till after the meeting in case something comes up, and then they're going to be ready to rock and roll after this. And the paper application will be available for those who need it, but the push is going to be to apply on the website. I mean, that's what we want to do. And so they're working on a flyer to put at the schools, going over the basics of the program, and then it'll have a QR code leading to the website, so they could just, putting the flyer up if it's in the school, because I don't believe they hand them out anymore, but hopefully the schools will work with us to put them out, so a poster, if you will, and they can just scan the QR code or wherever we put them, and we could put one here and at our office and at the Nature Center, and then they could complete it even on your phone. They could just fill out the application and send it in. And then we just wanted to keep these sections, the briefly state, to make it because in the discussions, not to make it too formal. So just, they'll be able to fill it in, and the box will expand if they have more to say, but we did say briefly, state why you want to serve on the commission, and then this question, if appointed, what do you hope to gain from the experience? So that would kind of cover the, instead of writing an essay or whatever. And then we did list the criteria. It's a little tough to see here. I apologize on the screen, but just the criteria that we talked about. Residents of Maplewood will be given priority for the application process. Must be enrolled in 10th, 11th, or 12th grade, and must attend commission meetings that are on the third Wednesdays of each month at 6 p.m., must commit to a term of a year, must have reliable transportation to commission meetings, occasional availability to participate in community events, and student commissioners are active, non-voting members. Just kind of these are the criteria, and there'll be another, introduction on the website to go with it. And then just how to apply, that you can email the application to me, you can mail it or drop it off in person here at City Hall. And then you just have to have a completed application with parent guardian information, and then provide a letter of recommendation from either an employer, teacher, coach, member, or peer, or any non-familial adult. And that's how it had been worded on a lot of applications. So can't be your mom and dad writing your letter of recommendation, but lots of options. And that. Yeah, as long as it's not family. And that was pretty standard. Yep, I will. I wanted to just run it by you tonight, but just know that communications is working behind the scenes to get it all set up to launch it. So wanted to keep it simple, as easy as possible. So
Yeah, I looked it over from what you sent me, and all the points that we discussed in our meeting last week were covered, or last month, were covered, and it looked good. And I've got it prepared to go out to 2 of the homeschooling groups, so we're ready to go.
Yep, and I was out, and I was going to be back Monday, and then I was out Monday too, but I saw your email about cover letter, and we're going to write, each audience will probably be different if communications does it, but, so there's not one coverall, but it'll just be really basic, just information on what it is and what the opportunity would lead to, and then just the application, just if you're interested. Like I said, wanted to keep it as simple as possible and easy. And we did not have, because I don't know if we discussed, but we have, because it's a responsibility thing, have the applicant sign it, but we want the parents' information if we need it, but we're not requiring the parents to sign for them, because even some seniors in high school are 18, so we're just trying to give them a little autonomy, like, you sign this application, but we do want your parents' information just in case. So. And then Councilmember Villasensu, do you have any comments on the form? Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate that. I'm sorry for budging in, Chair Terry, before as well. Yeah, I love this, and I'm just trying to think in my mind, man, did I get this? Because I've been really just desiring this as well. And I've tried to get my fingers and toes into the school district too, the 622 mostly, and talking to them about that, because I think it's really hard to get schools to be to get into this with us. But if we could get them on board, and it seems like they're ready now to do this, and I just think this application looks great, and thank you all for putting your contributions to it too, through the parks and everything. So I'm excited, and I remember when we had a student commissioner before, and it was always a great asset to hear their advice, because they have just a different perspective of, and they use the parks probably more than adults in many ways. And so I look forward to this a lot, and thank you too, Audra, for spearheading this.
Sure. It'll be nice to have a formal policy, if you will, of how we will do this, and we can review it. One of you, I don't remember who had suggested, every year let's review and see if there's something we need to tweak, and we can always change the application, but this is a good start. All right. And I will. And a couple other updates. This is from our environmental planner, Sean Finwell. And in case you didn't know, it's America Recycles Day today.
Oh, I didn't.
Yes. So I'm going to pull up, she just sent this to me actually right before the meeting. So it is the I America Recycles Day. Keep America Beautiful, November 15th, 2023. It's one day to educate, one day to motivate, one day to make recycling bigger and better. So that is the overall thing, just to get recycling on your mind. And then some updates, they're exciting, I think. Maplewood receives the Ramsey County Select Committee on Recycling and Environment, the SCORE grant. We receive it every year, but you still have to fill out an application, and grant incentives offered for additional recycling programs above and beyond the grant requirements. So there's some other things we can do. And for 2024-25, the incentives proposed that we're looking to put into the application include park recycling improvement program for a trash and recycling assessment in each park to determine the need for changes to existing trash and recycling containers, additional trash and recycling containers, signage, an educational campaign, and possible funding sources. So we have struggled with that. We've had recycling containers in the parks, and they were great at the time. It was a great idea, but I don't know if you've seen them. They're round and heavy, and they have the cutout for cans, but a lot of recycling isn't just a can, and so if you've got a cardboard box from your 12-pack or whatever, you can't fit it easily in there. We also have issues where trash gets into the recycling, so that education, like getting the word out program, if we get funding to help do that, would help, because once people throw the trash into the recycling, it contaminates it, and then, staff doesn't have time to sort it before it goes. So if it goes like that, it gets tossed, and then the recycling is kind of defeats the purpose. So, and having more containers would be great. We ended up putting a lot more trash containers in the park this year, just because we've been dealing with so much trash. And our environmental planner, Sean Finwell, she actually told me today that at the open house that I'll mention in a little bit, the volunteer open house, someone stopped in just to make the point that she was really happy. She loved our trash cans, and she loved that they were everywhere in the park, because you try not to put too many because you don't want it to be an eyesore, but we're just trying to make it really hard for you to make an excuse not to throw your trash away. So we invested in quite a few containers to kind of take care of that problem, but any help we can get will be great. So that's an opportunity. And I'll update you as I have updates on it. Any questions?
I just have a couple of comments. Number one, to your point, how are the trash containers working out that our young scout built for the environmental center? How are those doing?
They're working out really great. They're holding up. They're
Good.
holding up well. Yep, and they're still, the way they were built, it was easy to just pull the can out, so they're perfect. It was really nice that he worked with park maintenance on those.
Excellent. And then just another point on the recycling. I don't know if everybody saw it, but last week there was a shredding event that we could take our materials down to Washington County for free and shred them. And we took advantage of that opportunity, and it was really slick. Things went really smoothly. It was touchless. You opened up your trunk and you pulled in. They had plenty of people there, and it was strictly for shredding, and they had people pulling everything out of your car, dumping it in dumpsters and putting your containers back in your car, and off you went.
Wow.
It was really good. And how often do they do that? Do you know?
And we have done shredding events in the past. This year we did not do one. The one previous that we did, the attendance was low. There were just less people that were finding the need to do shredding, but we always revisit it, and if it looks like we'd want to do one of those events, it would usually be in the fall. Kind of combine it. We have done them before in Ramsey County and done a shredding event here in Maplewood. So
this event that I went to, or it was an all-day thing, was Ramsey and Washington County. Is that correct?
That I don't think so. It was just, we didn't do a shredding event this fall. Well,
Okay,
we
'cause
didn't, it could have been combined in a different
Well,
event.
Washington County must have opened it because it was in our city newsletter. That's where we read about
Yep.
it.
So we
And-
didn't do one specifically for Maplewood, but we have done those in the past, so I'm glad you were able to take advantage
Yeah,
of it.
okay.
I know City and County Credit Union does one every year, and I think they just had theirs.
Great. All right. And then just another fun update, because we had, we've talked about the campus project, and the pollinator project, and I'll just leave it like this. I won't change I just wanted to let you see the pictures. But we had 19 volunteers from Century College Ecology program volunteer on October 12th, and they helped. We've been struggling with getting the seed to take root, and with the drought and everything, and the geese eating all of the seed. It's been a struggle to get things established. Like I said, the first year's tough. By year 3 is when you really see the rewards, but they were able to come out and help us with the project, and they did a lot of work. They collected thistle seed to make sure it didn't spread. They pulled and dug weeds out. They transplanted native plants and seeded bare areas by hand, and then they put up, I don't know if any of you could see it maybe if you've come when it's light out, but there's these stakes with this really bright reflective tape that flies in the wind, and it deters the geese from coming. And I don't know if it's just migration or not, but I have not seen geese congregating there since they've put these things in. It looks a little crazy, but it's supposed to be a good way to keep the geese away from eating the seed. So that was great to have their help. And then Great River Greening had 21 volunteers on the 19th that took 8 trash bags of invasive yellow nut sedge. That was taking over some of the areas because some weeds have been planted in this process, unfortunately. And they put plugs in, so they'll take actual plugs instead of seed. And so they did a lot of work, and that really helped give us a head start on the project. So a total of 1,000 plants were transplanted, 14 gallons of seed spread, so it was awesome. So there's the Century College class transplanting the plugs, and they were volunteers from 3M that came out to do the other work. So they're putting together those tape deterrents that scare the geese. So just wanted to share that with you. It's really great to get those volunteer groups out to help. And I think that's all for the computer updates that I have. But I did want to mention that, we had our volunteer open house I told you about November 2nd. And if you don't mind if I put you on the spot, since you were there, Jason, would you want to speak to the event?
Yeah, I think it was a really good event. They immediately put me to work at the welcoming
did.
table, which was great. I loved it because I got to meet a lot of new people that I didn't know before. But there were quite a few people who attended. All were interested in learning about volunteer opportunities, and many were shocked at how many were available. I was pleasantly surprised to see some younger couples, which is good to see them wanting to get involved in the city volunteering, because a lot of times you see older people who are retired wanting to do a lot of the stuff, but to see a couple younger couples who said, what can we do, how can we help, was, a good look for the future, I think. But yeah, the s'mores were good, the conversation was great, and the groups that were there had a lot of good opportunities for people, so I think that it was very much worthwhile, and we should maybe do it twice a year, I don't know.
Yeah, that is a great idea. And I was pleasantly surprised too of the turnout, and thank you and the other volunteers who came out. And we've actually gotten some really good volunteers slowly but surely. We have one of the volunteers, you met him, Rick, that was at the table with you, and he's retired and he's just looking for things to do, and he's been there at least 3 days a week since he started volunteering, doing seed collecting, fixing things, just anything we need. And it's just so nice to have the extra help. And we're looking for things with the events coming up, and just, and I think we'll probably end up doing some kind of volunteer appreciation for, once we get things going, just for all the volunteers that have come, and maybe even invite them to come and talk to you all about volunteering, and maybe talk about their experiences, and you can get to meet them. And yeah, we're excited. So
Our community liaison from our Maplewood North Lions Club was there, and he came to our next meeting with a laundry list of opportunities for the club. So you'll be seeing a lot more lions in the community now that we've had this.
That's awesome.
Volunteer event.
And we got to have s'mores, and that's the first time I've ever made s'mores with coals, because we used the grills on the patio of the Wakefield building and charcoal briquettes, and it worked. So I got to be the fire stoker and keeper of the coals, and it was a gorgeous night. It was like, 55, 60 degrees, and it was just beautiful. So it was one of those days you're like, I'm lucky I get to do this for my job. So if you don't have any other questions, that's all that I have, except to say, unless someone has a compelling reason, we're not planning to have a December meeting per usual. So this would be our last meeting of 2023, and I would see you all in January.
I just want to say, you did an awesome job too for the trunk and treat. I took my little cousin and it was amazing. He had a great time.
Yeah,
Great job.
You know what? I should have brought pictures. Darn it. Maybe I'll email you. Yeah, we Parks and Natural Resources, we got third place. People really stepped it up with their,
They were.
this year. It was like, wow. So Jurassic Park got first place. And then Barbie, they had a group.
Barbie was
did
there.
Barbie with the full cutout that you could get your picture.
I
And then we
did.
did Gravedigger with our tractor. So, yeah. It was really fun, even though the weather was terrible.
Well,
All right. Well, thanks,
I think
everyone.
we'll call the meeting adjourned at 7 PM. Thank you.